Good evening, everyone. My name is Welt Aladiton, and I'll be taking you on project management today. Actually, this is one of the advanced project management topics. So we'll run through it and then explain the concepts therein. And afterwards, I will give you some guidelines on best practices as it relates to project management, both from the agile point of view and the traditional project management also. So for today, we will be looking at planning and scheduling within Agile and Waterfall. Also, we'll be looking at critical chain and critical path, what they mean, and how do you implement these? When are they used? How are they used? What are the advantages and the disadvantages? So when you come across a project team and such terms are used, you will understand what they're talking about and then have an idea on how to make that happen. So that's what we'll be looking at in the next hour or so, planning and scheduling within Agile and critical chain. Okay, so at the end of today's session, I expect every one of you to have an idea of the Agile part of project management and also looking at the methodologies within the different sectors, how this applies to critical path, how it applies to critical chain, and then looking at critical path versus critical chain. So those are what we'll be looking at today. So eventually, you would have learned how to evaluate, you will be able to critically evaluate why Agile project management was developed in the first place and what are the different types of Agile methodology. I know you've gone through some sessions where they've explained some of these to you. So we will just, in addition to that, you will also be able to apply agile methodologies in software and non-software projects. Just an idea. And then you should be able to justify the difference between critical path and critical chain at the end of our discussion today. Okay, because we're talking about scheduling now. So at the end of this session, you will have an understanding that will enable you to justify the difference. And also, with further sessions, you will be able to apply critical chain project management to project portfolios. Okay, so let's start with this picture that we have here on the slide. Now, this is like a discussion. If I were to hand you, or if I were to hand every one of you a bowl of potatoes and ask you to take them home to cook, that's what I'm saying. There's a bowl of potato, or let's say I've got like three different bowls, since you guys are three there, Laura, Chinelo, and Okwe. Oh, just in two. Okay, so that makes four. Four bowls, just potatoes in it. And I'm saying, go cook these potatoes, then bring them back tomorrow. Let's say we have another class tomorrow for a class feast. Will you be happy to do so?
No,
No.
Welt, I won't be happy to do so.
you, you, you sounded as though you don't like to cook.
I love to cook, but I will require more instructions. There are
Okay,
different ways I can make potatoes, so I would like you to let me know how should I make it.
good. That's beautiful. That's where we're actually going to. So the question is, are my instructions sufficient for you to cook these potatoes? And then what have I not clarified? Now, those are two key questions. Because all I said was, take this potato, go home, cook. Bring them back tomorrow because we're having a feast. So in project management, clarification of requirements, very important. That's why it's quite an engaging profession. It's a profession that solves difficult problems, simplifies them. Because the way you handle projects, the way you handle responsibilities, even in life, or your home, within your class, wherever, there's a mindset, there's a skill that you develop when you come into project management. And that skill helps you to question things. It's like saying critical thinking. You question things and you don't just leave it at questioning, you want clarity. And at the same way, when you're giving tasks to someone, you ensure there's clarity of purpose, clarity of objectives. So when I say go cook and bring it back, we're having feast tomorrow. Some persons will just go cook whatever it is that they feel they like, the way they want the potatoes to be, and they'll bring it. But some other persons will go further and say, excuse me, what sort of potato do you think I should make? Is it fries? Is it boiled? Was it going to be jacket potato? Is it, different questions. And then do you want it spicy? Do you want it non-spicy? Now questions start coming. And then different sets of people within the class. Before you know it, there will be a poll that will go around the class. Those of you that are for fries, let's see your hands up. Those of you that want it spicy, put your name here. So you just put up a poll, and then before you know it, different people will now clarify what exactly they want. That way, you now have good information to go make that meal and bring it for the feast the next day. So when you bring in it, it's very easy because once it's there, everyone will just take their, oh, I'm the one that requested for fries. Oh, I'm the one that requested for jacket potato. I'm the one that requested for the spicy one. Different. Everyone just goes for theirs and that's it. But if it was the other way around, there will be confusion. So the point here is this: what method? What method are you engaging with in order to deliver this project? There's a task that needs to be done. So what method? Based on the method, there are questions that will be raised. There are ways of getting it done. And that's why I had to bring in this question first. So let's move on. When we say methodology and framework, what's a methodology? That's a way to systematically solve a problem. Simple. The methodology is just a way to solve it. Okay? Two things are being combined here. The methods that you've chosen to get a desired outcome, and then the logic behind those methods. That's why they call it methodology. The method behind the logic. Okay, so those are two words combined together. Methodology is a way to systematically solve a problem. On the other hand, a framework, that's a structured approach to problem solving. A structured approach, there are structures to it. So what the framework does is that it provides the structural component that you need to implement a model. It's like having the skeletal part. When human beings, we have skeleton, you know, that's why you're able to stand, to walk, and do all those stuff. But just looking at you, I may not see the skeleton, but except I want to use some microscopic equipment. But just physically, you may not see, but they are there. That's what makes up the structure. So that's what a framework is the structured approach to problem solving. Okay? So I just want to start with these two definitions so that you have an idea. At times when you hear these terms, it can be very confusing at times. Say, oh, methodology, agile methodology. Oh, what's the framework? And it's it can be cumbersome at times, and you feel you can't wrap your head around it. But I just want to, break it down so you understand. Let's move on. So, still on methodology, it's a system of practice, techniques, procedures, and rules for consistent management of project because you want to manage project. So there will be techniques, there will be procedures, there will be rules, okay? And they must be consistent with management principles as regards to that project. And that's just what we're looking at. How do we get this job done? The methodology from start to end. Okay, so let's look at the composition of the methodology now. What are the composition? When you have a basic okay, let's just say you have a project. You have a project and then you just want to break it down and want to understand the whole life cycle of the project, everything about the project from A to Z, from the beginning to the end. First, there will be what we call the model proposal. The model that needs to be implemented needs to, you will give a proposal for that this is the model that we want to work with. And then that model, for it to be validated, the team will need to look into it, scrutinize, question, so many stuffs will go on. So the steps is process model based around the life cycle, organizational structure with defined roles, document templates, guidelines for adapting the method to different types of projects. Because there will be different projects. So within this methodology, it has to be something that is adaptable to all sorts of projects. You will have projects that are engineering based, maybe construction, civil, design, and then there'll be some other projects that are more on the other side of it. Maybe you're having a software delivery, you're having platform as a service, so your methodology should be flexible enough to accommodate some of this. And that's why you have the model proposal. Once it's been proposed, there will be a development. You would develop the model that you intend to use to implement the project. And then there will be what you call pre-validation. The pre-validation process will go on. It will be checked by your internal team. And after that, there will be an independent review. That will be an outsider, probably a consultant or whatever. They will come and look at it and, test and see if it's really going to work, if implemented. And then if it passes that point, then management will give the approval. That's step 5. When management gives the approval, there will be what they call implementation. You cannot implement it. And after that, you will now generate your validation report. So that's just the whole process that it will go through. But on your own part, you may not need to go through all these processes because there's a guideline already. There's already a methodology that you're going to use. So you're not the one implementing it. You're not the one starting from scratch. So all you need to do, there's a ready-made methodology. Oh, I want to use Agile. Oh, I want to use Date. You just need to start from there and then get your job done. So it's easy for you now. Now, what are the benefits? When we're looking at this methodology, what are the benefits of this methodology? When you apply a certain methodology to your project, what are the benefits? The first benefit is that there's consistent terminology. The terms that you use, when we say, like, okay, I was I was with a lady yesterday, and she's a team lead. So she was now discussing about one of the team that had an issue that doesn't understand project planning processes, So, and all her tasks were not structured, they were just all over the place. And then she had to just put him through on you know, um, how to align everything and arrange all the different tasks in different arrangement. Just it's like setting different goals. When you set your goals, set steps, okay, that this needs to be done, and then put a timeline on what needs to be done. That way, you know what needs to be done today, what will be done next tomorrow, and then you understand what the dependencies are, who needs to do what to help you get this done, what needs to be done before your own job will be done, and then when you're done, what's the next step? Who are you passing it on to? So all these different steps. So she just had to explain how she was able to help out. That's the point. So the benefit now, you have consistent terminology. There are terms that you'll get used to. There are different projects comes with different terms, different organizations. But this particular methodology, there are terms that you need to familiarize yourself with, which I believe some of those terms you've started hearing them when you start hearing about maybe um, facilitation, who facilitates the meeting, are we having a stand up? Prior to now, some people never knew what a stand up meant. But now you understand. So we're having a stand up by 9. Yes. Oh, there's going to be a project review. There's a product review coming up. There's an SLA that needs to be prepared. Okay, so all these are terms that you get used to, but they are consistent. For every methodology, they have their own consistent terminology. And also, there's shared understanding of roles and responsibilities. You understand that this is the role of the team lead, this is the role of the agile coach, this is the role of the scrum master, the BA, the QA. This is the role. Everyone has their responsibilities. So there's a shared understanding of roles and responsibility. That's part of the benefits. And there's consistent documentation. Yes, the documentation are consistent. You understand that there needs to be a project charter. There needs to be a product charter. There needs to be like uh, the end of end of product report. There needs to be like a weekly report. There needs to be you want to do okay like your Scrum meeting, the daily reports, the bug log, okay, where you record the different bugs. Then even the developers, they have different reporting systems, okay. And when you're talking about the PID, that's the product initiation documentation, okay, those ones are there. And there are so many documentation, but I don't want to bore you with all different names. But the point is, there's consistent documentation. When you wrap up a project, after action review, AAR, okay, lessons learned report, project closure report, all these are documentations. So they are consistent. You already know that, oh, this needs to be prepared at this stage. When you get to this stage, this need to come up, this need to come up. And also development and progression structure. When you're developing the project, the progress, the structure, they are all in sync from one stage to the other. You understand that this is the initial phase. This is what happened next. This is the midpoint, and this happens at the tail end. So there's always this development and progression as per the structure of the project that you're running. So that's one of the beautiful things there when you are aligned to a particular methodology. You're not confused. Then greater mobility of staff between projects. Because we're all used to the same methodology, it's very easy for you to say, oh, when another team is understaffed, yeah, you could just give them a helping hand and say, oh, let me go to team Z. Or maybe the team leader for team Z will say, oh, I'm very sorry, my BA is not available, or my scrum master is not available. Please, can you help manage the team for the next 2 days? This is where they are, and this is what they've actually done, and you'll be more than happy to just step in. Why? Because it's the same process, the same methodology that everyone is using. So in such a case, it's actually of great benefit to you. And then quicker project startup. Yes. So when a new project comes up, it's very easy to just start it up because there's a template already on ground that you can just say, oh, this is it. Oh, we have a new project. Okay, yes. Now that we have a new project, what's the project charter? What's the project debrief? The project brief. I want to see the project brief immediately. You've gone through the project brief. Okay, you look at the timeline. What's the project plan? And then what phase are we in? The initiation document that is required. All these goes smoothly. Why? Because we are running on the same methodology. Okay, so let's quickly move on now. Now, when in project management, is this is a professor, and he brought up an argument, because they had a conference, and then people were like, "Oh, project management methodology should be this way," and some argued that okay, there are some content within the methodology that they felt were not necessary, and some other persons felt should be added. Some felt, oh, this is not part of it. This should have been included. So they were just dancing around those ideas. So I just decided that I should just point that out, just in case you happen to hear such. But the point here is this: no man is an island, okay? And all these ideas are being generated just to ensure that we get the best out of the practice, project management practice. We want to get the best. Now, according to this honorary fellow, he is saying that project management, he's saying that waterfall, Scrum, Six Sigma, Lean, Agile, Critical Path, and others, that they are not project management methodology. Now, that's what he said. That doesn't mean that that's what the body of project management is saying. Okay, they don't agree, but he just felt these are not project management methodology in the sense that a project management methodology should be agnostic about the context and domain in which a project exists. Okay, it should be able to address the full life cycle because the truth is some of these methodology don't address the full life cycle. Like if you're using critical path, it may not address the full life cycle of a project. Lean, Six Sigma, they may not address the full life cycle of a project. Others like Scrum, Waterfall, yes, Agile, yes, those may, yeah, to an extent, deal with the whole life cycle, I agree. So, but he just arguing that some of these don't deal with the full life cycle. Also, that he should be able to describe a process to manage each phase of the life cycle, yes, which Scrum, Waterfall, and Agile actually does, and then outline the organization needed to manage the project. That means the methodology should be able to outline the organization that is needed to manage the project and also describe the roles needed to manage the project. Each roles, like Scrum, will tell you, oh, you need a Scrum Master, you need a BA, QA, for this, you need the QA for the testing, the developer to, develop the codes and all that. So he's saying that every one of those methodologies should be able to handle all of this. Now, that remains a debatable question. But the fact is this, each and every one of these methodology, they have their own advantages. Okay, in the sense that there are reasons why they come into play. Like the Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma, they go together. It's more about when you have processes and then you are trying to manage waste. When you have processes that there are some part of those processes, some phase that you know that you can just cut it off and just make the process smoother and then avoid waste. So that's basically what the Six Sigma does. If you have a good understanding of it, it will help you to manage projects in a better way, in a quicker way. Companies are beginning to go for it now. In addition to your Agile and Scrum skills, also try and see how you can add Six Sigma link to it. They have free certification for the first step. The white belt is free certification, so you might want to check that out. Okay, so let's move on with methodology. Now, these are popular project management methodologies and frameworks. Remember, we gave a definition of framework and methodology. Okay, saying the framework is the skeletal structure on which the process lies on. Okay, so we have APM BOK. That means APM body of knowledge. Okay, and then we have Praxis, which is the framework. Then we have project management body of knowledge, PMBOK, is a guide. And then the Prince2 and Agile. So all these are different methodologies and frameworks that you are, or I believe you are already aware of some of these. Okay, so I just felt it should be highlighted. Let's move on, please. Then just mentioning some of these, the Praxis framework, what it does is that it integrates project, program, and portfolio management into one single guide. When you go deeper into project management, there are subgroups. Okay, there's what we call program, then there's portfolio, and then there's project. Okay, so it's like let me explain. Let me put it this way: when you have a university, within that university, you have different faculties: faculty of science, faculty of engineering, faculty of law. You know, So in this case, that university can be seen as you know, the head, that's the top, that covers everything. And within the university, you now have faculties, different faculties. And within those faculties, you now have different well, I say module now, departments. Within science, you now have physics department, chemistry department, life science and all that stuff. So the same way you have portfolio, program, and then projects. They are also divided in that way. Okay. So Praxis is like a framework that integrates every one of them together so they can all work in one single guide. That's what Praxis does. Rather than you running portfolio separately, program separately, and then all the different projects underneath them separately, Praxis helps you to kind of bring every one of them together within a single guide. So there are 4 parts to Praxis, but that's not the that's not the reason why it's not really part of what I want you all to focus on. I just want you to know that there's Praxis framework and I've heard of it. Okay. But definitely you're only using Praxis now, but just in case you may come across it somewhere, but it's good mentioning. So that is it. We'll move on to the next Prince2. That is the popular one that most of you will need to, go with. Prince2 and Agile. Those are the 2 popular ones that most companies are looking for. Because the whole idea is for you to be relevant when you go out there. So you should have an understanding of Prince2 and also Agile. Because some organizations these days, for most of them, they want people with knowledge of Prince2 and also knowledge of Agile. So if you look at this model diagram, you will see all the different phases of the project that we mentioned a while ago. They are all combined here. Okay? You see, and then the team that are involved. If you look down here, you see the delivery team manager, and then you see the project manager at the middle, and you see the project board at the top. Okay, how every one of them, they report from one point to the other. Look at the initiation of the project at the beginning here, initiation of the project, and then when you're controlling the project, which is the mid part during execution, all these are the stages that goes on during execution. But when you start it up, you have what they call the project brief, which is the plan. Then this is authorization to initiate the project. Then the project link documentation, which is required, and also the either action the project and then it is approved. Once the project is approved, it moves to execution phase. And within this execution phase, that's where you have the end stage report, you have the stage boundaries that need to be managed, controlling each stage, the work package, completed work package, managing the product delivery. And then when you're done with all this, you are moving it to completion. That's why we have the closing a project, CP. Okay, so the project closure. So they have different phases. So what Prince 2 does is to manage all the different phases, both documentation, processes that goes with every phase. And this is being depicted within this picture. Okay. So don't just get confused. It's just all the different phases of a project, moving from one phase to the other. That's just what is being captured in a page here. Now for Prince 2, in continuation, you have the Prince 2 principles, the themes, and the processes. So those are the 3 points that you need to understand within Prince 2. So I'm going to give you an assignment. You write it down that what are the processes in Prince 2? Question 1. What are the themes in Prince 2? Question 2. And what are the principles in Prince 2? The point is when you Google or ask Uncle GBT all these questions and you read it up yourself, you find out that you can, yes, you can relate with them. What you read yourself, what you went to research yourself, you will be able to relate to them better. Okay? So try and check out the process, themes, and principles. Prince 2 processes, themes, and principles. For those of you that will be doing your Prince 2 foundation and Prince 2, the next stage, you will meet all this there. They are simple questions though. Okay, now in terms of Agile Scrum, this is the whole framework at a glance. When you say Agile, I know you've heard quite a lot about Agile now. So in the same light, the same way Prince 2 details every stages, now we're coming to Agile Scrum. What Agile Scrum does is that it's an iterative model in which projects are being handled in a unique way. Now, this picture depicts all the different segments, all the different breakdown, the sections that you will need to go through. Start from what we have here. When you have a requirement from management, your team, stakeholders, and they say, oh, we need to do this. Now, the product owner will take all that they've requested for, assuming they say they want to build a website or a mobile app. The product owner would have asked them all the different questions. What sort of website you want? How do you want the color to be? What do you want on the landing page? What information do you want at the top, middle, bottom? All these questions the product owner will get. And then when she gets them, she will put all those information into what they call the product backlog. Within the product backlog, each and every one of those information will be there. And then he or she will then prioritize those information. Which one comes first? what needs to be done first based on the information she's collected from the stakeholders. She knows what they want first. And if it's not clear, he or she will go back to them and verify. So when all this information has been gathered, they will do what they call a refinement. Okay, ranking what needs to be done first, which of the stories, which of the features need to come first. That's what happens within the product backlog. And once it's done, the team assembles and they pick some of those tasks into the sprint. There's what we call the sprint backlog. The ones that you know you're going to do first, assuming you have like 30 different tasks within the product backlog, and we've decided that we're going to do four. So those four will move into the sprint backlog, and we're going to have a sprint planning meeting. Okay, so within the sprint planning meeting, they're going to estimate those stories, those user stories, and once they've done that, the team understands, oh, this is the task for now. We'll now have the sprint goal. And once they have a sprint goal, fine, they move on with the task. This is how the task move. You can see from the backlog, it comes to sprint planning, the sprint backlog, and after that, there's going to be the main sprint. Sprint can be 2 weeks. There are some companies, they have their own sprint is 3 weeks. It depends. But most of them just do two weeks. And within those 2 weeks, they will ensure that all that they have decided they will complete, which are within the sprint backlog, they will wrap it up within that 2 weeks. And within these 2 weeks, you'll be having what you call your daily stand up. Every day there will be a daily stand up. And then when you're almost done, you will now have what you call sprint review. Let's see what we've done. How does it align with the project objective? Is it close to what was asked? We will do a review with the stakeholders, and if there's any correction that needs to be made, quickly sort it out there. And once you've done this, the work will be completed. Once the work is completed, this finished work, then you now do a sprint retrospective. That's when you come together and now check, oh, what is it that we did very well? What needs to be improved on? Was there any mistake? Could we have done better? Could we have finished earlier? Were there any bottlenecks? So all these questions will be asked within the sprint retrospective. So that's how the sprint goes on. Then when you're done with this, you move to the next sprint. Some other items will be picked from the product backlog again, move it into the sprint backlog, and the process will be repeated again and again. Daily stand-up, scrum meeting, sprint review at the end, then the retro at the far end. So that's how you continue for the agile, scrum. This is how they develop software, they develop websites, so many other stuff, mobile apps and all those. So this is how they do it within a sprint. And so it depends. Some persons may not use the scrum. Uh, uh, some may not use, just in case you come across it and they say, oh, is it only scrum that you are used to using the scrum board? Some other persons might just use something different and say, oh, we don't want to use scrum. We want to use kanban. Okay, so it's a similar process also. Kanban is also a similar process, but I don't want to go into um, the process of kanban. It's even, well, I say it's even simpler than scrum. Everything is just within a board, so it's a straightforward process. But it's how you use scrum or you use kanban to deliver the project. Don't worry, we'll get there. It will be explained to everyone, just in case you've not heard it. But I want to believe that you must have heard it, but just in case. So this is the Scrum board. In case you're using Scrum for your project, and this is the Kanban board, if you're using Kanban. Just like what I explained with the diagram before, In Scrum, you have a task that needs to be done that they are all within the product backlog, and you've moved some into the sprint backlog. The way it works in Scrum is that you have to do, ongoing, and done. Now you will pick exactly what you know that you can do within this to-do list. If you look at the middle now, you will see that they've picked 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 that they know that they can complete. And then as they continue, when you complete those 3, now you need to complete this first before you go back and pick 4 and 5. That's how Scrum is. And then you move, as you're completing it, everything goes to done. Meaning, oh, I've completed 1, 3, 5, and 2, and 4. And within this Scrum, there's no restriction to the number of ongoing items. Okay, fine, no restriction. But the work are selected up front. You've already picked them 1 to 5. That's what we're going to do. And then you start moving from one point to the other. But for Kanban, you pick 1, 2, 3 for a start. Say, oh, these 3 tasks, they are the ones that we want to start with. And then you move 1 and 2 to ongoing. While you're moving 1 and 2 to ongoing, you can also pick other tasks and bring them to this first point to do. You can pick new task and add it to the to-do list. Here, you can pick new. Whereas in Scrum, no, you've already started with this. These are the ones that you started with, and that's what you will run with to the end. But in Kanban, you can actually pick new stuff and move it in. And as you're progressing, you see 1 and 2 is being done here. And the next, they've moved 2 and 7 to ongoing, and they've completed 1, 2, 3, 4, A4. They've completed this. While they've completed this, you still have new products being moved into the to-do list. That's Kanban. But for Scrum, you don't bring in any new task until that sprint is completed. For that sprint, you don't add any new task. So that's basically the difference. Because I've seen it in an interview where they asked the difference between Kanban and Scrum. In fact, they've asked me before in an interview. So, not. Okay, now Agile versus Waterfall. I don't want to rush you guys. I just want to make it as simple as possible. So, we will not be wrapping up the whole slide because it's quite much. Just want to do a 1-hour class for today. And then our next class, we will continue into more detail. So Agile versus Waterfall. At this point, do you have any question, please? And I want to be sure that you can hear me.
Yes, please. I have a question.
Okay, please bring it on.
In the difference between Kanban and the
Scrum.
Scrum,
Yes.
you said new items are not added,
For
right? For
Scrum. Yes.
Scrum.
Yes.
We have what of in a case whereby the sprint is starting, like currently what is happening right now in our team. This we're in sprint 3, and we realized at the beginning of the sprint, during the sprint planning, we realized that there are lots of stories that have not PBIs that has not been worked on. So we didn't add new PBIs for sprint 3. The team was of the opinion that the QAs finish the work that they had in hand that is already on the board, right? But then we were like doing refinement on Tuesday. We can add new items if they feel that they can take in more. So during ad hoc refinements, that we add new stories to the to-do list, does it not imply that this Scrum to do is also flexible, just like Kanban.
Yeah. The flexibility within Scrum is within the sprint. Remember, Scrum is your sprint is 2 weeks, right?
Yes.
So within the 2 weeks time frame, you're not adding anything new. When you wrap up the 2 weeks and you decide and you notice there are some tasks that you are unable to complete, those tasks can go back to the to-do list for the next sprint. You will do a refinement. So it's going to be a new sprint. Fine, they can come back. You can add them to it or even add new tasks to what was there before. But it's a new sprint. Not like when you started your sprint, you are on day 4, and I say, oh, there are some tasks we want to bring in. You don't do that for Scrum.
Okay, the task you're talking about, that this to-do list, is it like when you go to the Azure board, is it the column of new?
Yes,
Or
the
are we
column of
talking about the committed and approved items
yes,
or new?
the committed and approved items are for that sprint.
Okay, that's the to-do list that you're
Yes.
referring to
So
here.
you're not changing that. Even if you can't complete it, then you can now reassign it for the next sprint. It's okay.
Okay.
So it's not as if you're going to add new um, items in the mid-sprint. No, you don't do that for Scrum.
Okay. I
But for
understand.
Kanban, you can introduce new item along the way
Okay.
because it's not limited to 2 weeks. It just continues. You got the point out?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So Agile versus Waterfall now. Traditional project management, what it does is it defines target, then it takes aim, and then it launch. That's the traditional project management. This is what we want to do. We want to build a 4-story building. This is the location we want to build it. These are the number of blocks, cement. This is the dimension. Okay, let's go on. Bam, and they start. But Agile is different. Within Agile, there must be a vision. There's a broad direction to it. And then there's room to learn, to adapt to condition because things will change. Okay, so you will now learn, you will adapt to those changes as you go along. You will discover that, oh, we're supposed to do it this way. Oh, it's not possible. Then you adapt and you move on to that new change. Change management process is beautiful, easier, easily embraced within Agile. Now look at the SDLC, the software development life cycle. The first thing that comes up is the requirement. What are the requirements? What needs to be done? What features are required? Once we've gotten this, then we'll move to design. It will be designed. And then the developers will now develop it. Then the testers will come and test it. And we'll move it to production. That's the deployment. Once you've deployed it, the maintenance team will start working, maintaining it. It's already live. Okay, so that is the software development lifecycle. That's how it goes from one step to the other, from one step to the other, from one step to the other. But this is the model that Waterfall uses. Okay, you first of all gather the requirement, you do the design, you do the development, then you test, and then you deploy it, and then you continue with maintenance. That is the Waterfall model. For the Scrum model side of things, it's different. It's more iterative. That's we have some activities here, but it's not part of okay. Now, these are variants to Agile. Okay, so don't just get carried away and feel, oh, everything is just Agile, Scrum, that's all. No, no, no. There are some other variants that I will need you to go and research, like the EP, extreme programming. What is extreme programming? I've mentioned lean project management, the lean project management. Try and understand what that means. Okay, you've gotten a little bit about Kanban, Scrum. You already know Scrum. Okay, there's FDD, feature-driven development. Why I'm showing you this is I just need you to note them down and then do a research. Because when you research some of these things, all you just need to do is what's the difference between, if a good way to have a clear definition of every one of them is to just say what's the difference between extreme programming, feature-driven development, lean project management, agile Kanban methodology. Just ask that simple question on Google and then you'll see what comes up. So that you can have a contextual view of what they entail, okay? And it's going to be very helpful to you. You don't need to go into detail and start studying, no, because each and every one of these, they are quite bulky and, exhaustive, if I would say that. There are some companies that all they focus on is extreme programming. They won't even go into your Scrum. No, they just focus on extreme. So it depends, okay? It depends on the project type. Maybe some of these defense project and all that, so they can be quite techy as to the methodology that they want to use. They have reasons for doing all that. Okay, so I just said, let me just point some of these. Now, blending agile and waterfall. So many companies these days, they are blending agile and waterfall. Some of them, they call it Wagile, So it's agile and waterfall. They blend it. Companies want to see if you have an understanding of how agile works and also how waterfall works, because they want to be able to accommodate all sorts of projects. There are some projects that are, especially most of the civil service projects, most of them are more waterfall in nature. Although most of them are trying to embrace agile now, but all the same, they still have those elements of waterfall, traditional project management. So they don't want to lose out on any end. They want to be able to grasp all the old projects, and at the same time, they need people with skills of agile. So when you come in with a blend of both, you are at an advantage. I've been interviewed before and asked, okay, give an example of a project that you did using waterfall and another project that you also did using agile. So I had to give an example, an ERP project, how waterfall was used for that. Okay, and then for agile, how we created a dynamic 365 platform. So there are different projects that you can give. You can even give for the Scrum, mobile app, software development, different stuff. So there are so many projects. But the point is, they just want to be sure that you have experience in both, which is very essential. So that's what the blend of agile and waterfall talks about. Okay, so agile technology. Within agile, these are some of the terms that you need to be familiar with. Iterative development, product backlog, I've mentioned that. Your stories, yes, you're already writing stories now, so you understand this. Sprint planning, sprint backlog, sprint review, estimation, incremental design, task board, daily stand-up. So all this, you are familiar with all this already. Now, methodologies exist in different sectors, okay? In different sectors, you have methodologies in, like when you come to civil servants, civil service, civil service fair, their own terms, they have their terms. They have their methodology that they are used to. So if you want to work within the civil service now, although so many of them are beginning to embrace proper agile now, while some, the old timers, are still reluctant. Yeah. So most companies are going through that concern, but all the same, eventually they will get there. They will get to embrace it. Okay. So to now, I'm just trying to skip most of this activity because I always give um, activity to students. I give you in a group. You have to work in a group, and then you go make sure that you look at this, and then because when you engage with some of these activities, they are real life projects. It helps you to add to your experience and in a way that when you come across this, even in questions in real life, you understand what to do and how to deal with them because they are case studies. Okay, case study based on experience. How do public sector projects differ from those in the private sector? So these are differences. You need to research it. What's the difference? What implication does that have for their governance? What is the governance process for private sector and that of public sector? Then look at the strengths and weaknesses of using Prince 2 to manage complex IT projects. Is it as simple as that question is? You'll be shocked. You can meet it in an interview. Someone will ask you, based on your experience, what are the weaknesses of using Prince 2 to manage complex IT projects? What are the strengths and weaknesses of using agile derived project management methods to manage complex IT projects? You see, they've asked it in Prince 2. Now they are bringing it into agile now. Just to be sure you understand, because if you don't understand what these are, then the experience you're bringing in is not adequate for that job. Or now, I don't expect every one of you to understand all this. But what I'm saying is you can research these questions. When you research them, it becomes your experience. Okay? When you do that, it becomes your experience. Some of these things we are saying, some people have been working for the past 5, 10 years. They cannot differentiate this. They don't understand what the strengths and weaknesses of Prince 2 will be when it comes to complex IT projects. And they can't even bring that into Agile too. Okay? But for you, because we're in a world where information is the king. And how do you get this information? Knowing the right questions. Now, from this simple question now, you'll be so surprised the amount of information you will get if you research them. So I'm giving you this task. Just go check what are the strengths and weaknesses of using Prince 2 to manage complex IT projects. The same question for agile derived project management in managing complex IT projects. Okay? So let's get this done. We can discuss it in our next class because I have quite some very important topic for the next class. Now, just to help you out, because what I do is I also give you, well, this is even more than expo. So look at some of the lines I expect you to go through. For public sectors, some of the accountabilities, I'm just giving you examples that, back to the question I was asked, okay? Within methodologies for group 1, how do public sector projects differ from those in the private sector? These are all the differences. But my main concern is to go to the complex IT projects. All this you can get. The strengths and weaknesses. Now look at it. Prince 2 was originally developed for IT projects, so it is well suited to them. Complex projects may warrant the level of detail, process, and governance, but Prince 2 enabled the governance that can be missing from agile methods. Another advantage is that it's widely understood, like 1 million certified practitioners are into this Prince 2 now, more than. And then it's systematic, it's rigorous, it has rigorous approach when you are changing critical systems. Okay, good. Then these are part of the weaknesses. It doesn't allow for iteration. Unless you blend it with Agile, it doesn't allow for iterations. And it doesn't allow for customer feedback during delivery, unless you also blend it with Agile. Then detailed requirements are needed. You need to complete all the different requirements, and then they will run it from A to Z. Let's move on. Where we go, the last part of today's class is to look at critical chain and then critical path. We'll put out a definition to it. That's what we're going to end the class. This session, today. Forgive me, don't mind me. I'm used to going to classes. So let's move to critical chain, please. These are different certifications, just in case. I know you're aware of that, Prince 2, Agile. Okay, critical path versus critical chain. Our final session. For critical path, we're talking about methodology now. It is time-based planning. Critical path, when you say, what is the critical path for a particular project? It's a time-based planning that is focused on activities. We're looking at critical path, and the next one will be critical chain. For critical path, you are focused on activities. What you are interested in, what is the shortest time that it will take me to achieve this goal? Based on the most likely schedule, what is the shortest time? Okay, so, and those activities are completed in logical order. So just understand 2 points. Critical path is time-based, is a time-based planning, and the focus is on activities. So all you're interested in is what's the shortest time to achieve the goal based on the most likely schedule. So note that. What about critical chain? The critical chain is time-based planning, but the focus is on resources. Remember the focus is on activities. That's critical part. You are more focused on the activities. Let me go back. That's the shortest time to achieve a particular goal, and the focus is on activities. But for critical chain, we say the focus is on resources. So you're more concerned about the most efficient use of resources to achieve goals. How best can I use the resources that I have to achieve this goal? That's the concern for critical chain, which is different from critical path. So these are methods of achieving goals within project management. So based on different circumstances, you will come across this, and then you'll be asked what method will be best to achieve your goal. Critical path or critical chain method. One is based on activities, focus on activities, but they are both time-based planning. One is focused on activities, the other is focused on resources. So that is just what I need you to understand. Just get that. Remember that, and you will enjoy the rest of the process. So if you want to go into more detail, then we start looking at typical examples where critical path is being where you apply critical path method, and another example where you apply critical chain method. But those will be more project, more examples anyway. Let's look at this particular difference now between critical path and critical chain. This is the standard project, the standard project schedule from A1 to A4. If you're looking at the first diagram there at the top, you have A1, A2, A3 to A4. Now, within A3, you will notice that there's the secondary chain, which has B1 and B2 there. So what the B1 and B2 does is that it's more like a breakdown on A3, talking about the best resources that can be used within that A3 phase to achieve a faster delivery. That's why they had to bring in B1 and B2 to act as a buffer. Okay? Because we are talking about resources now. Otherwise, it should have just been using just A3, and at the end of the day, you will not complete your task on time. So you need to understand what sort of resources are required in order for you to get your job done. It's like maybe your sprint, you discover that there's so much issue with the testers. They are unable to complete all the different testing. Yes. So what do you feel can be done to achieve a faster, maybe you need to bring in one extra tester, that might just be what will just help you. The whole 2 weeks, you guys have completed your work in 5 days. And then the tester can go back and do whatever he's doing elsewhere. Now you are utilizing resources in a better way. Okay? So what are the combination of resources that you can use in order to get your job done faster? So those are the buffers. Let's move on. Now, this rolling wave planning is more of, it's like when you're looking into the future, when you start from a particular point, you have different look ahead schedule. You can have like a 7 days plan. We're looking ahead 7 days. What will we have? What are we doing in the next 7 days? 30 days, 90 days, 180, 365. Okay? So the longer the days, the less information, the less detail you will have. That's what this rolling wave planning talks about. If, assuming your project now that you're working on now, if I'm to ask you, what are the details of the project within the next 90 days? You may not have detailed information as regards to what will be happening on day 80. It's not very clear. But you will have more information with what's happening next week, the next 7 days, because those are closer. The closer they are, the greater the amount of detail that you have. But the further they are, the lesser detail you have. I hope you understand that. Hello? Laura?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you very much. So when you have this rolling waving plan, which somehow you may not call it this, but you definitely have these plans. Because while you are busy running your product backlog, everything within your product backlog already states the task that you'll be doing for the next 3 months. Although you've not picked them yet, but they are there. So there's a look ahead. Okay? But you just don't have all the details for them yet. So that's your rolling wave planning. Time for question. Our next class, there's something I want every one of you to understand. I want to look at, selecting a project. I want you to develop the skill of being able to select a project. When I mean selecting project, if you have a list of projects, like you have 4 or 5 different projects, under what criteria will you select a particular project for your organization and say, oh, this is the one we should go for now. And this particular project, we should not go for it because of this, because of this. What are those things that you need to look at in a project that will make you see them as viable? So those are the things that we'll look at on our next, session, because it's very important. You need this knowledge, you need the understanding. When you're looking at a project, you want to select a project and say, oh, looking at the financial status of this project, looking at the financial statement, looking at the critical part, looking at this and this and this, I think this particular project may not be viable at the moment. And then you give reasons. And then you have things that you're going to use to test it. You test it with this, with this, with this ratio, and then you use some financial algorithm, to test. So all those are things that we will look at, okay? And at the end of the day, you will be able to say, yes, for this particular project, this is the one we should go for. Because companies will come up with series of projects and they're like, oh, at this point, which one is best for us to go for? What do you need to make such a decision? So that's what we'll be looking at next. Okay, but for today, I just want you to have an understanding of the project planning and schedule, and also the Scrum, the Kanban, the difference, and the critical part and the critical chain. Okay, so I expect the research that I asked you to do, go look at examples of projects done with critical part methodology and then critical chain method also. Look at examples of such projects. And also ask example of project done with waterfall and agile. Still on IT, yes, IT projects. Don't go look for construction project. No. Look at IT projects. It's easy when you're looking for construction project. Yes, we know that's waterfall. No, but look at it from IT perspective. But that's where they will be testing your knowledge. Okay, so I think that's where we draw the curtain for today. It's been a very busy day for every one of us, and I'll welcome a few questions now. Question, and thank you all for listening, okay? Thank you for your time. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Welt. Ope's hand is up.
Okay, Ope, bring it on, please.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much, Well.
Thank you.
One thing I just wanted to ask, well, 2 questions. The first one is regards to like Prince 2 and the processes. So just to clarify, is this something that we're meant to be equipped with as well, just as you said, just for like future references and also like interviews, to have that knowledge and to be able to say, in terms of like project management, we know Prince 2 practices and we know how it relates and applies to Agile. Yeah.
Those are the backbones. When you say Prince 2, you must understand those 3 key points because everything stands on them. So if you don't, then you've not even looked at Prince 2. So that's why I say just do a research, look at the processes, the teams, just check and the principles. Look at the 3 for Prince 2. It's very important. Just look at the summarized document that contains them, and then you can read them up. Oh, what are the principles? What are the teams? What are the, activities? Just it's something that you really need. Okay, you may not be able to do all the exams because the books can be very bulky and all that. But yeah, just in a page, it will explain everything.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And the second question, I think Laura touched a bit on it, but I think maybe it was unclear. So using our team as an example now and the project we're on, when you described Scrum and Kanban and said like Scrum has to be like I think I understand. Like, it has to be iteration by iteration, so sprint by sprint, and everything has to be commented at the beginning of the sprint. In our situation, we've had ad hoc. I just want to know, because why I'm asking this question is to know if it is acceptable outside, because I know we are learning, and it would be good to, differentiate normal from wrong, irrespective of what's happening.
Sure.
So in our sprint processes, we've had to have ad hoc sprint plannings mid-sprint because we didn't have enough user stories at the start of the sprint. Now that's because of an impediment of the presence of our BA. But is that something that is acceptable outside, or do we just run with the sprint irrespective of the impediments, and then by the next sprint we then commit like more stories? So if we're meant to commit like 6 stories this sprint, I'm just giving an example, and we're only able to commit 2, just because we didn't have enough user stories, blah 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 blah. Is there a situation whereby we can commit stories mid-sprint, like what we've done in this internship, or in actuality or in reality, we just let that sprint run through and then start a new sprint with committing the remaining stories? Is that sorry?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
get your point.
clear?
Yes, doing what
Perfect.
we call ad hoc refinement.
Okay.
Yeah, ad hoc sprint
Ad hoc.
planning. I think that's what we did. We
We
didn't do
said
the
it's ad,
refinement.
we'll have ad hoc refinement where we can add new stories.
Refinement, I thought
It's
refinement was for
ad
new.
hoc sprint planning.
Yeah,
Laura,
because
it's ad hoc
refinement is
sprint
for
planning. It's
new.
not refinement.
Yeah,
Okay.
refinement is for new PBIs for the next sprint. So we were meant to do refinement that day, but because
Yeah.
we didn't have enough on the board, we had to do an ad hoc sprint planning as opposed to the
Okay.
refinement. I think that's what's
Okay.
happened.
Wow,
Now,
this has
Sorry,
gotten really
well, you
confusing.
can go ahead.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, I totally get your point. Okay. You had to do ad hoc refinement. And
Sprint planning.
I mean, yeah, sprint planning, because
Mhm.
you initially there were not enough stories. Okay.
Yeah,
Now, in real
life
life,
scenario. Mhm.
the way project goes, the planning phase is also part of where issues with resources have been handled. Resources, as in who does what. Who do we need for this task? Do we need one BA, two BA, one product owner, one scrum master, two testers? All these need to be sorted before execution. If they don't sort it out, you're not starting the project. Okay? So for you not to have enough user stories, that means the product owner or the VA, they've not completed their work. That
Yeah.
most likely will not happen. They will definitely complete their task before the project starts, because there are cadres. Management will need to give approval and say, oh, this project can start. And before they give that approval, they will assess all this. Do you have the resources required? Yes. If you don't, you need to sort them out. Because they don't want a situation whereby you get to a point and then you get stuck. No. Because everything is budgeted for, and nobody wants to waste money. Because, see, you know how much they pay for each and every one of you every day? Your BA, maybe £400 per day, £450 per day, and your QAs, each of them, 350 minimum. So no company wants to wait one day without you guys doing anything because one refinement is not done. No, it won't happen. Okay, that won't happen. But there will be some situations that will come up with even the best of plans, with stories that you've written, and there will now be some complication that will come up. Yes, that's within the sprint, so that needs to be resolved. There will be some refinement that will be done, and then more clarity will be required. Yeah, the product owner will pick that up with the stakeholders. That can happen. But in the case of what you just mentioned, that would be quite unlikely, if you get what I mean. Because of the different processes that need to be taken care of before you get to where the point where you will initiate the project. All those must have been ticked. Those boxes must have been ticked to be sure that you have the right resource. Because what you are saying is issues with resources, So it's manpower. Oh, we don't have enough QA. We don't have the right BA or whatever. So if that's going to be an issue, they will bring from another department to assist you to ensure that they get the job done.
Okay.
So you won't have to do sprint planning mid-sprint.
Okay. Yeah. That's fine there. So what we're saying is the possibility that it would happen is really low.
Yeah.
0 to none. Okay.
Yes, because they would have planned everything before you get to that stage and be sure that there won't be issue with manpower. So if it comes up, you will get someone from another team that will step in to help out. So because things can happen, maybe your one of your QA may call in sick. Okay, maybe something happened, so he's not available. Yes, so that happens. So in such a case, it's just to fill in that gap. So there are plans. Okay, before you get to that point, they've written a risk assessment, and there's a mitigation plan already that they've submitted within the risk register. And say, what happens if your project goes on and one of your BA falls sick? Will you close the project? Say, oh, no. We will not close the project. We'll go to team D and then ask them if their BA can just, double up for us for the next 2-3 days while our BA, recuperates and all that. So you will always look for things that can happen. And what will you do if it happens? Risk and mitigation. That's part of project management. So you see, so we always take care of every eventuality. Things that could happen. We've planned it. Plan even mistakes. Okay, if this mistake happens, what will you do? So, we will do this if it happens. And then you maintain and monitor the progress of that risk register. So that if anything comes up, you know how to close it. If it's not, you want to know the current status of it. If it's not closed out yet, you monitor it. So that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question, please?
None from me.
Okay. So, Okpe, Chinelo, Laura, Josephine, we're all good, right? Okay. So, just ensure you remind me of our next session, okay? So, we'll find time and we'll go through that. It's going to be very helpful. Once again, thank you all for today's session. It was wonderful, and thanks for listening. Thanks for all the questions. We will see next time. And make sure that you go through all the questions and the research that I say you should go through. That'll be very helpful. So, thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.